Hello, future people. Jason the Bruce here with Getting Tabled, and welcome to another Getting Tabled guide. Today, we are going to be focusing on a game as opposed to the hobby, and today we are focusing on Kings of War. Now, despite what some people in the community may believe, Kings of War is not a game that was created when fantasy was killed. This was going much earlier than that. Much earlier than most people realise, I think. Personally, I started showing interest in the game around 2nd edition, which is the version of the game that was active at that time. This is definitely a game that got a lot of interest around that time, because, well, quite frankly, it was the only alternative that people had yet. 9th edition had not been thought of yet. Old World still isn't out. To put it simply, if you have a mass fantasy army of any kind, there are rules in this game that will let you play with them. Do you have some dwarves? Yeah, they've got dwarves. Do you have evil dwarves? They've got evil dwarves. Elves, dark elves, humans, different kinds of humans, undead Egyptian type mummy things, yep. Stuff that you probably haven't thought of. If you have a fantasy themed mass battle army, there are rules in this to play it. It is that simple. Now, some of you will be very happy to hear that this game uses square bases. Others may be disappointed. Others probably don't really see what the big deal is. There are some things about Kings of War rules-wise that you need to get your head around. So, we're going to go down, and I'm going to look at some examples of some models that are not mine. These I've actually stolen out of my housemate's cabinet. Because he has some examples of stuff that I don't. So, I'm going to show you physical examples of the two different basing styles that you can use. Now, this is very rough because this is something that is obviously not finished. But, this is the basing style that most people would be familiar with. You have your guys on their bases, and then you have some sort of movement tray to help keep everything organised. You can 100% take your things straight from fantasy or whatever alternative you have and come straight in here. You can just 100% do that, it's fine. Alternatively, you have something called multi-basing. Personally, this is what I prefer. This is the reason I got into the game. This, again, is something that's done by my housemate. And he's done an incredible job with these guys. So the idea of multi-basing is that you can essentially create dioramas with everything that you do. So in this case, everybody is coming over this field of rocks. It really feels like it's an alive scene. To me, personally, this is the thing that sold me on Kings of War. But being able to create something that is more than just models standing in front of each other, that's what sold it to me. Now, this is a difference that won't catch everyone. I'm just showing you one of the things that's different about Kings of War. So, we'll head over to the website and we'll have a look at a couple of things. So, here we are. We're on the Mantic website. All I have done is I've gone to All Products and Kings of War. That's all I've done. On Resources, you have free rules. You have a free version of the book that you can download for the 3rd edition, which is the current version of the game. There is obviously your regular rulebook, which is what I was holding up at the start of the video. There is also a 2-player starter set. So in the 2-player starter set, you have some of your Northern Alliance, and you have some Night Stalkers. You will start to notice that there are other books available. I want to focus for a moment on the Uncharted Empires. Now, the Uncharted Empires is a book that first came out a few months after fantasy was first killed. The idea of these rules were that you have an army that we don't make. Here, have some rules. Play our game instead. That's as simple as it was. Generally speaking, if Mantic make the models, you will find it in the standard rulebook. If you're using something that's alternate, you will most likely find it in the Uncharted Empires. So, they give you some examples here. It introduces 12 new armies to the game. The Brotherhood Orders is something very generic sounding. This is where your rules for Salamanders come from, because at that point the Salamanders weren't released yet. Sylvankin. The Herd are definitely not Beastmen. Kingdoms of Men is fairly straightforward. Kingdoms of Men is more... It feels more reality-based kingdoms as opposed to fantasy-based kingdoms, if that makes sense. This is where your Rat King come from, because the Rat King models are all fairly new at this point. Let's pretend that you don't have an existing fantasy army and you want to look into one. Now, because I'm biased, I'm going to have a look at the Abyssal Dwarves. So, you want to build an army. You really don't know what you're doing. You kind of just want to start a set to go. So, hypothetically, this is your Abyssal Dwarf starter set. This does not come with the rulebook. It is just the models and the bases that you need. It comes with everything that you see there. This is a very standard starter set. It's not a full army. It's something to get you started. The Mega Army is an army in a box, essentially. Now, you will have a couple of different things that you can build, because some of these have alternate versions and alternate builds. Now, for every army that they make, they have something like this. So, if you really like orcs, you could come to orcs, and you could build a full army of orcs. Kings of War is one of those games where to some extent you can do anything that you want. You do not have to use Mantic models, just in case what I've said so far doesn't already make that clear. When you're playing with friends, who really cares? But when it comes to playing competitively, that's where you usually get your, well, you must use X models. From a Kings of War point of view, there is a category where you're supposed to be voting for the best Mantic army, and to be eligible for that, you have to use a certain percentage of Mantic models. But there is nothing in the rules that says that you cannot use an army that's made by somebody else. So, if you want to use your Dark Elves from Fantasy 5th edition, go right ahead. If you want to use your Samurai army and make it work as the Kings of Men in this, go right ahead. The rule set for Kings of War is very balanced. There's definitely some things that are stronger than others, but not to the point where a good general is not going to be able to overcome that. This game uses D6s. Yes, we know what my history are like with D6s. If you like mass battle games, then this is going to be something that you will enjoy. If you like the Mantic models and you want to try something new, this is definitely something that people will enjoy. This has had a strong community ever since Fantasy died. If you're tired of waiting for Old World to come, if 9th edition just isn't your thing, this is genuinely a good game. This is genuinely worth your time. If you'd like to reach out to other people in the community that play this game and find people in your area, then there's a couple of places that you can look. First and foremost, I'd highly recommend the community Kings of War Fanatics. It's specifically for the game. It's a good, strong, positive community. People share their hobby and their pictures and that all the time. And there's people in this community from all over the world. if you're looking more at the general Mantic side of things, Mantic Madness is a really good community as well. Again, people that are into the Mantic games and enjoying them. There are definitely specific ones from your country as well. There is a Kings of War Australia that I would definitely recommend. Kings of War Victoria, if you're in Victoria, Australia. You will most likely find groups for the specific armies that you want to play as well. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. If you would like to see more in this series and have suggestions of what games you would like us to do an introduction for, please let us know. We already have a couple in mind. If you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe. Share our content if you know other people that would enjoy it. If you would like to connect with us in other ways, all of our contacts are down the bottom, including a link to our Patreon page if you're in a position to support us. And until next time, play more games.